Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your host, June Duglu, along with Avi Dingri and Nate Autry. Today on the podcast, we'll be talking about the Ole Miss versus Troy game, what to analyze from the game itself, and how it will impact the season going forward. So we'll go to our residential Ole Miss fan, Nate, for further analysis of this game. Nate, go right into it.
Yeah, to start off, just to recap the game, Ole Miss played their season opener at home against the Troy Trojans from Alabama. The biggest news to start the game was that Jackson Dart was the first quarterback out for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin before the game announced that he would be starting Luke Altmaier in week 2 against Central Arkansas, and that for the rest of the season there would be no clear defined starter. So the quarterback battle that lasted throughout fall camp continues into the season. This game started off relatively easily for Ole Miss because of the strength of their rushing offense, although Jackson Dart did have a rough start in the beginning of the game. Throughout the game, Ole Miss's defense played pretty solid. As you can see, they limited Troy to only 10 points. And in the second half, Ole Miss tried a more passing-based attack, which is why their points are very low. Some key moments in the game would be there was a series in the middle of the game where there were about 3 turnovers, where Ole Miss picked up an interception and then immediately got intercepted, which was, kind of somewhat concerning considering that we're playing against Troy and not a SEC West opponent that we'll be playing on against later on in the season. Another important thing that happened this game was that the true freshman Quinshon Judkins out of Alabama had a breakout game with 14 carries and over 80 yards, including his first touchdown as an Ole Miss Rebel. And another thing to note is that almost all the playmakers that were announced throughout the game seem to be transfers, which is good to see considering one of the biggest questions regarding this Ole Miss team would be how the new transfers that they acquired in the offseason would integrate with the team and perform to the level that they were expected to. Going on to highlight some players on the offense for both teams, I thought the most important player for Ole Miss offensively was Zach Evans. He was a former 5-star out of Texas, and he committed and went signed to TCU out of high school. And then in this past offseason, Ole Miss signed him as a transfer, and he came here during the offseason. He's expected to be the bell cow of the Ole Miss running back room, and he displayed his ability to do that in this game with 20 carries, 130 yards, maintaining his yards per carry from TCU of about 7 yards per carry. He also had 2 receptions out of the backfield, which shows he's still really versatile. I think it's important that Ole Miss has a clear, defined lead running back because in past years we've struggled, such as when we had Jerry Ely, Snoop Connor, and Henry Parrish, and confusingly split reps in between them. When I think any one of those backs could have been a lot better had they maintained the lead role within that room. On the other side of the ball, Gunnar Watson for the Troy Trojans he wasn't spectacular, but he was consistent throughout the game, going 34 for 47 passing with 275 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He did post a relatively low quarterback rating, which is likely due to his interception and the fact that he got sacked several times by the Ole Miss defense. But he made good decisions throughout the game, completed short passes. Another good thing that happened for Troy was their offensive line, which early in the first half and which throughout the first half had good protection for Gunnar Watson and limited Ole Miss's pass rushing capabilities. Do you guys have anything you want to add about offense for Ole Miss or Troy?
Um, Nothing I have to add for Ole Miss on the offense. I guess it's just a quick question, if anything. How do you think the quarterback battle or dilemma, I guess you would say, at Ole Miss has impacted the offense's ability at all in this game, or do you think it could impact it in the future? Because I think that's the main concern coming from the fan base.
Yeah, so I think what Kiffin has adopted for these first 4 games of the season, being Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, and Tulsa, is he's adopted like somewhat of like an NFL mindset where he's treating these games as if they're preseason games. And so the quarterback battle, like you said, is like I said earlier, will continue throughout these games because I think Kiffin doesn't know, and he wants to make sure he has the best quarterback when he gets to the meatier part of the schedule with all the SEC teams. For this game specifically, Kiffin said in his post-game conference that in the second half, although Ole Miss was having good success running the ball, he focused on passing the ball a lot more with Jackson Dart, which is why you'll notice that the point total was lower. But yeah, I think that Ole Miss's ceiling for this season in terms of wins is dependent upon one quarterback beating out the other for the job and looking confident and taking command of this offense throughout the season.
Okay. I guess just another quick one before we move on to the defense side of the ball, which I don't really have any questions about. What's the argument for Altmaier over Dart? Because I'm still kind of lost on where that exists necessarily.
Yeah, so there was a lot of hype regarding Jackson Dart transferring over the offseason. Obviously, he comes from USC as either a 5-star or extremely high rated 4-star. And like many people forget that he's only a sophomore and that he only started 4 games for USC, so he has a lot of talent. But on the other hand, you look at Luke Altmaier, who was also a 4-star coming out of Starkville High School. He's like from Mississippi, and he has a whole another year in the Lane Kiffin system at Ole Miss. And actually, a lot of the reports coming from both spring camp, fall camp, and it was even evident in the Grove Bowl, which is Ole Miss's spring game, is that Luke Altmaier is more of a game manager, and he may not take as many risks, but he's less prone to making mistakes and giving up turnovers. While Jackson Dart has flashed elite ability to like make all the throws, and he's shown his talent basically, but he has struggled with
Okay.
his decision making and showing his like prowess and command of Lane Kiffin's offense. So basically,
Okay.
Luke Altmaier knows Lane Kiffin's offense and he makes better decisions, at least to the eye test. But Jackson Dart's more talented and hopefully can take command of the offense going forward. Is there anything
I
else
don't
you
think I
guys?
have
Sorry, yeah,
any questions. Abby, any questions that you have?
No, that was a very good encapsulation of Ole Miss at the current moment. I really agree with that.
I think
yeah,
we can talk some more about the defensive side of the ball, which we know it has always been Ole Miss's strong suit. So
yeah. So coming off a season where Ole Miss improved from I think it was 36 to 24 points per game in the like defensively. Ole Miss lost their defensive coordinator DJ Durkin to A&M, and they now have Chris Partridge in his first year as defensive coordinator. His first actual ever year as defensive coordinator. He was co-defensive coordinator last year, but this year he'll be calling the plays. And again, just like the offense, Ole Miss has had several transfers that are expected to step in and play an important role. I think just by watching the game, you could tell that Kari Coleman was the most impactful of any of the players, at least that I saw. He was transferred from TCU as an edge rusher, but he played this game as a sort of combo because Ole Miss plays a 3-2-6. They only have 3 down linemen, and they often rush 4. So Kari Coleman was that 4th rusher slash linebacker. And in the game, he had 5 tackles for loss. I think his first 3 tackles were tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks, and he was just constantly getting good quarterback pressure. I think his performance today, or I guess on Saturday, is important because one of the biggest concerns coming into this year was that Ole Miss had lost their top 4 running backs, either to graduation or to the draft, and they had transferred Troy Brown, but there was concerns about depth. There are some returning players like Austin Keys or Shanti Seastrunk, but it's really good to see Kari Coleman have a breakout game like this early in the season. Hopefully, he can be a good contributor throughout the season. On the other side of the ball, Craig Slocum Jr. didn't have like an especially flashy day, but he had a good stat line of 10 tackles, 4 solo tackles. He had 2 recovered fumbles, but again, fumbles were part of the reason that Ole Miss scored so little in this game, is that they gave up the ball several times. And he also had a pass defended. So overall, Troy did have, at least according to the points total, a good defensive day, and Craig Slocum heavily contributed to that. I think that about wraps up the summary of this game. Do you guys have any comments that you'd like to add?
um, nothing specifically about this game. Abby, you have anything?
No, not really.
Yeah, so that being said, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and check the rest of this channel for other game recaps or previews on college football, NFL football, or any other content. Thanks for watching.